The SP 500 and the Nasdaq 100, the Nasdaq appears to potentially be breaking out of its range towards the downside, and this is where things could really get ugly. We look at the ES, S&P 500 breaking your major support again, possibly coming down into 5,030, 5,029, almost 70 points of downside. But why is it doing this? Is it inflation reports? Is it the Fed? And I would argue it's neither. It's what's happening here solely with Iran and Israel right now. If you don't know, basically there was kind of a pause. What was going to happen? Israel said they would follow through with an attack based on Iran's attack on them, and then Iran came out later today and said they will respond immediately. So this is a lot of back and forth happening right now, and everyone's wondering, well, Tyler, why does this matter? How does this affect America? How will we be involved in this? Well, the landscape of what's happening right now, to put it in short terms, I don't want to get political, but Iran is very close to having a nuclear weapon. Israel has a nuclear weapon, and Israel is being attacked on almost every front. If you do not know the Samson Accord, it would constitute, Israel to basically, if they have to, use a nuclear weapon as a last resort if they are surrounded. Okay, that's the big giant problem here right now. If that happens, whatever country you're in, it changes the entire landscape of America, and that is just not good for any business in the world. Okay, so again, that's where we're at, and that's what's happening right now. That is why you dropped. There's no other reason, in my opinion. Again, you can go to my Twitter. My link is down below, so make sure you check it out. But again, I try to keep you updated with news throughout the day. I'm not doing a lot of trading here. I've been kind of like sitting on my hands. But again, you have Fed members coming out. I think monetary policy is restrictive enough. We're moving in the right direction. I'm getting more optimistic about potential growth. Everything that's happening. So I'm just telling you what the Fed's saying and then interpreting that back. And then we literally dropped as the news came out with Israel and stuff. So yeah, do what you want with that. So that's what I'm looking at right now. And that's also important to understand that we do have earnings coming up this week. It's worth mentioning Goldman smashed earnings. Banks have been doing pretty good. Yeah, so yeah, all things considered, everyone's concerned about rates, but the banks are doing pretty good. So again, we're dipping right now. Now, what I would track the most for this, and I don't do this a lot, but it is the S&P, the SPY. What I said is you get below 508 on the SPY, you're looking for potential downside. I've been saying that. So again, until we got to that point, I'm not really looking for it, but then you start breaking down, and I think you have to start looking for that gap fill here on the daily, going down to around 497 if we're going to get continued downside. Now I'm going to go over a few issues that I have with this, but we'll attack that here in a second. And we can also pull up our supply and demand zones as well, so you can see we don't have a demand zone, at least till we get all the way down to like 493. You could argue, though, you could really make an argument here based on technicals that you do get a demand here, like on the 4 hour, possibly the daily, near 494 as well. So that's what I'd be looking at there. But you can see very illiquid, not a lot going on here. And once you start breaking here, it gets really, really ugly. We go into Qs and it's equally as terrible. You got below the 432.5 level. You're starting to look for that gap fill down into 425, 426. That's the level there. Again, you broke the support. You officially have made a lower low on the 4 hour daily chart as well. That is a concern. So you can actually see this is where you made your higher high, your low. You made a little bit of a higher high, and now you're making a lower low on that chart. So that is the concern. A BRB is what you'd be looking for. A retest of 432 with selling and pending off that area. Now, before I go too much further than anything else, I just got to give my opinion on this and what I think is going to happen. So again, I make this really clear, and this is what I try to post on Twitter, is like, I can't predict like what's gonna happen with like war. Like that's kind of crazy. Like I'm never gonna claim to commit like to know that. But if these things continue to persist, it's going to cause more issues. It just is, right? Iran is not Hamas or the Palestine people that was attacking. This is a real issue. This is the first time Iran has officially attacked them from Iranian soil. So that's the concern there. So I want to make that really clear. And if this continues, I don't know what could really help us unless earnings are just fantastic. Now you have Netflix and TSM on Thursday, but except that, I don't really know what else good could happen. I don't think the Fed can say anything that's going to push this narrative to the upside, even if they continue with those bullish statements. We saw the good statements this morning. We saw a good open, and then we saw a drop right after all the news came out. So that's what I'm looking at. I think technicals will help you find levels where you can see buyers step in. But I don't think we're just going to bounce from levels if this escalates further and further and further, because you're seeing nations pick sides like Russia and China. And that's not good as also like worth mentioning. But the United States said they're not going to get involved in retaliation. They're just going to try to help protect. That's what we're going to try to do. So again, that's their words, not mine. So just so you can see, DXY surging on this as well to the upside. Not ideal, not ideal at all. Oil surprisingly kind of flatlined, not really getting upside off this. You have to assume oil will tick to the upside off this news. I would be looking at this pretty closely. But yeah, oil's kind of flatline, not doing too much here. The US 30-year yield, you have to go into this. Yeah, just ticking to the upside as well. These are all bad signs. Now, I will say, I'm going to continue to say, I think we're closer to cuts. I think cuts will come. I think this putting stress on the stock market just like leads to a higher % chance of getting cuts as well, based on the data and information we covered with CPI, PPI, and everything in between. So just understand that. Also, too, guys, if you are interested in the indicators on the screen and things like that, as you can see the levels, you can also see the volume down here as well. I keep the volume hidden during the daily update videos just because they're ugly. Like I don't want to keep only use it when I day trade. But buyers versus sellers, that link is down below, so make sure you check them out. You use code OD40 for 40% off of your one-time payment, whether you go with a dated, long-term plan, whatever you want to do. Just want to give a special shout out to my favorite investing platform where I do all of my market research, fundamental analysis, trading, anything like that. It's Moomoo. They have partnered with the channel, just to let you know. You can see any of their current bonuses, their plans, etc., things like that. They're giving my followers an opportunity to earn some amazing sign-up bonuses, so make sure when you click the link down below, it helps out the channel a lot. The affiliate link is in my bio. Check it out if you want to learn more. The next thing I want to go into is going to be volume here, and something that I'm tracking with volume is today was actually a pretty good volume day, all things considered, at 84 million. We can quickly go into Edgeful and look at what's happening there as well, just to give you a heads up. This is pretty decent. So again, what I want to see on reversals or breakouts in either direction is I want to see volume uptick. And so our average volume is around 64 million on the S&P. So definitely a breakout on volume, high volume of like literally around 30% higher on a Monday. So that's important to mention. And if we also go back into that data, we look at price action just to give you a viewpoint. Green and red days. Mondays have our highest % chance of being green. So those are double whammies, bad news. Now, again, I've been inherently really bullish on the market, so I got to admit, like, when and if I'm wrong. Now, granted, this is something that I cannot predict. I cannot predict war. Like, I just can't do it. But yeah, like, totally wrong on what I'm looking at here. And like the technicals, like I said, the technicals will get demolished if we get crazy news. Like, I'm going to tell you that right now. So things to be looking at, what I'm looking at right now, the downside expectations on SPY and Qs. Now let's go into stocks where we're looking at. Now, NVIDIA, I've been saying I can't get bullish on NVIDIA to get above 924, but NVIDIA to the downside, I could see this coming back down to 841, would be looking out for that. You're looking for a little bit of a retest back into 862 and then pushing back down right there. That's what you're looking for there. Really quick to Bitcoin, really like off subject here, but Bitcoin is breaking back down. You do have halving in about like 3 to 4 days. I would be watching Bitcoin for any potential like opportunity. If you break this level here, like 62, 61K, you're probably gonna get a volatile drop down to like, dude, it could really start dropping to 54K. Really could. It'd be a great buying opportunity. I'm just gonna say it right now. Like, do what you want. It's your money, whatever. But like, I'm watching Bitcoin like a hawk here. I'm extremely excited. So if we do drop, yeah, keep it on your radar. I'm going to be mentioning that to you guys for the foreseeable future. But yeah, update on Robinhood as well. Robinhood is dipping, but it's just dipping with the market. So it's not like a big surprise. Like, people are asking, hey, Tyler, what do you think about, Target, Robinhood? I have those data positions. I might have to cut them just based on where Nasdaq is right now. I'll look to re-enter. But yeah, like, again, I can like a stock, but if the market's pulling back, I don't expect my stock to outperform the rest of the market. I love Robinhood. I really do. I think it's going to have good earnings. I think it's going to rip. But it's just like having risk on the table and being able to control that risk and have a plan. So things I'm looking at there as well. Target, same thing. Target, we talked about the little flag you had, it kind of breaking back down. You have support here, 162, 164. But you lose 162, you have a gap filled down to 155. I still think the earnings here are going to be good. The consumer has showed no weakness. So yeah, I'm still a big fan of Target. Think it's pretty good overall. definitely a fan. Can't argue anything else there. Just my opinion. Do what you want with that information. Amazon and Google though, I can't give too much information. Like you already hit our targets here, so great trade. Ascending triangle broke up. Maybe come back down to 180. Be looking for that. Definitely on Amazon. Google, honestly, Google on dips is probably a great long-term buy. I'd be looking for a push back into 151.5. If you hold 151.5, you got to be happy. I could see us getting illiquid under 150. But I do think what Google is doing with Apple is very good. And speaking of Apple, going into Apple, yeah, you have some weakness here. And ultimately, your upside's pretty capped out until you hit 182. That's your 200 SMA. I don't think you have that much room past that level. You can see your demand zone or supply zone you're getting rejected out of. So those are concerns. But yeah, overall, what I'm looking at there as well. If I'm looking at downside on the market, like I've been saying, if you're looking at an area, you would have to expect XLF to be the sell side point here because higher rates are bad for banks specifically. And you have seen red here, right? You had some good earnings, so you popped up and then came back down. But now I'm getting to the point too where I'm like, XLF, I want to have nothing to do with this. Like you had the good downside as a hedge until then. Now I'm not really concerned, not really watching. Oil names are still looking decent, popping up. But like I said, crude just isn't getting the love you want to see. You want to see crude get continuation. You have room in like $90, by the way, on crude. So that happens. Exxon, Oxy, those are the names that have probably the best potential. Nice pullbacks right now. You have some, clear support within $1, around % or 2 of downside. But that's what I'd be looking at there on the upside there. If I'm going upside on anything with like minimal risk, that's the sector that I'd be looking at specifically now. A lot of your big names are retracing pretty heavy. Meta, Netflix, Microsoft. We've had some good trades in Discord. And that's the biggest thing right now is like it hasn't been quantity of trades for us. It's been strictly quality. So shout out to Jordan. Like if you're in Discord, guys, I tell everyone like make sure you're paying attention to trade ideas. Jordan's been killing it. Right? So he said here, you break below 420, we're looking for 415. And in a matter of like an hour and a half, you literally just dump straight down to it. So it's about finding those setups, being really patient during this time. I'm not going to make a boatload of money like on retraces or, chop. That's not where I make my money. It's when we have those massive trends like from October into basically February. And so that's where I'm at right now. I'm just like waiting this out, especially for this war situation to kind of get past or for us to settle back down like we did in the beginning of the year when the Hamas thing happened with Israel. So that's where I'm at overall with this. I'm not getting crazy, being pretty patient. And again, that's just my viewpoint here. When, the market doesn't go according to my plan, it's really simple. I just take a step back, I watch what's happening, and then I reevaluate my plan. Watching NQ, watching QQQ specifically, downside into that gap fill, that's what I'd be looking at right now. If you don't get the gap fill, in my opinion, it's incredibly bullish. Like I'm going to continue to, if sellers don't step in right now, you can only take it as bullish behavior. Like you have broken these supports. Like every support that you had right here, you should get illiquid to the downside now. Sellers should step in at least to fill the gap and push us back down to our next level. If they don't, it's a sign of very weak selling. I can only make that so clear. You had increased volume today, so all things are lining up to fill that gap. If that doesn't happen, I can only say it so many times, sellers are weak. Believe it, not believe it, I don't really care. But have an update for you guys tomorrow. Have a good one. Appreciate you. See you later.